but two teams won 4-0 this week. One of them was Inter, the other one was Fiorentina, who have quietly risen all the way to 5th in the table. Dušan Vlahović has now scored 15 goals, which makes him the leading scorer in Serie A, 15 goals in 17 games. He's up to, I think, 32 in the calendar year, which is second only to Robert Lewandowski across Europe's Big Five leagues. And in fact, is only one shy of Cristiano Ronaldo's record that he set in Serie A for a calendar year. So that's the level we're talking about with Dušan Vlahović right now. It's not just like, here's a promising young player. We're talking about someone who is gunning with the very, very best of the best. I don't even know where I want to go from that, Mina, other than just to say, first of all, even though we've said it before, the kid is special. The kid is really, really special.
Yeah. The kid is really, really special. I mean, he was scoring lots of goals last season, but this year, and especially because, this was the reason he wanted to stay at Fiorentina, was Italiano arrived and he started to watch what his ideas were and thought to himself, I really would like to work with this coach. And that is what convinced him to stay in Fiorentina and not push for a move. He admitted that in an interview. The way that they play their football, the way that they take risks at the back and push so far ahead and offensively, allows him to have all these opportunities. And he is literally the best man to have at the end of an opportunity right now in Italy. He is just somebody that, will score those goals. He's strong. He is determined. He's trying to prove himself. Yet right now, this particular match against Salernitana, he wasn't the only man that was wonderful to watch. Obviously I really liked Male at the end and he got a goal because he was tremendous as well. There is the Sotil and his perfect assist. There are others that are making this Fiorentina side so exciting. Also because, like what I wanted to say about Inter was just quickly was that the inclusivity of the tactics allows everyone to partake in the action. So it's not like you have to sacrifice so that Achraf Hakimi takes the ball to Lukaku. It's no one is really sacrificing. Everyone's involved. So there's a lot more of a mental happiness and energy about it because you feel like who's going to score? Is it Alexis Sanchez? Is it this? Is it Correa? Everyone has been doing really very, very well. And I think it's a fun unit. And I think that's exactly what Fiorentina are. It's a fun unit where everyone can partake in the action. And yeah, obviously there are sacrifices to be made, especially on a defensive level. But when they get going and they find their groove, they are having fun, which makes it that much more fun to watch. Having said all that I've just said, and being a huge fan of Vincenzo Italiano, I'm not that convinced by them. So there is still so much for me that I'm unsure of. They do take way too many risks at the back. This is Salernitana, much like when we were discussing Inter, it is Cagliari. They are probably the two worst teams alongside Genoa right now in Serie A. And despite that, Salernitana had a good first half. And even when Colantuano, their coach, came up to say that, he's like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I didn't think we were bad. And it is about the Vlahovics and your Sotis and everything. And Salernitana right now have so many problems, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. Obviously, they have to find a buyer and the whole thing has gone mad. But with Fiorentina, it is the risks. I do think that away from home, they're really not very good. And they do concede a lot of goals. So I'm not yet that convinced that this is the side that can maintain their current position in the league right now.
Yeah, I agree with you completely about the match on Sunday. I think of all the games to evaluate Fiorentina on, this is not the one. Salernitana are very, very bad, and yet still we're not, as you said, completely out of that game in the first half. I think there was things within the game that I would put out just quickly. You've spoken about this before, Mina, like the fact that Vlahovic is such like a deliberate learner, like he really wants to get better, and that's a thing that he's working on. And I thought it was really interesting because he scored 2 goals in this game. The first one, I think, is the one that's more eye-catching because it's an across his body chip from out the edge of the box, and you think, wow, that's a really sort of finesse strike. That's something that not many footballers can do, and it's a really beautiful goal. The second goal was him attacking the front post off that cutback from Sotil, which you talked about. Wonderful, wonderful work by Sotil to set that up. And afterwards, he ran over to celebrate immediately with Italiano. And then you get this backstory that comes out about this, which is that Italiano has been sort of talking to him for the last few weeks and working on him with training, and specifically attacking those spaces. It's something that he felt like was maybe a little bit that he was missing in his game, was that attacking the near post on those crosses. And it was a sort of type of ball that Fiorentina were creating and they weren't taking advantage of. And I think that's such a sort of important part of this story, because we're going to talk about Vlahovic, I'm certain, lots more in the coming months as an object of transfer activity, right? Like, he's not going to be at Fiorentina forever. He's probably not going to be there past the end of the season. He might not even be there beyond the end of the January transfer window, because all of the world is waking up right now to the fact that this is a superstar striker. But the reason that he wanted to stay this summer, exactly as you said, is because he wanted to work with an environment and a manager that he thought would help him get better. And Vincenzo Italiano and he seem to have this great rapport. And what I think is fascinating is, even now, it's not a huge number. I think these things get like overblown. But even now, there is a section of the ultra fan base that has basically not forgiven Vlahovic for not signing a new contract. They don't boo him necessarily, but they won't cheer him either. After the game, when the rest of the team went to celebrate under the Curva Fiesole, he didn't go. He went to do his own thing with a fan because he's kind of not welcome with a section of that ultra group. And yet, look, if he ends up firing them into the Champions League, which is not inconceivable, they're fifth right now, or even just into Europe, and then they get a big transfer fee for him, and this transfer fee is inflated more and more because he's absolutely bossing it right now. I mean, I know that his contract is running down, but the more goals he scores, the more money you can command from anyway. I feel like this is not necessarily such a horrible outcome for everybody. Like, this is the way that everybody wins. Am I wrong?
No, I think it's worth trying to keep him as much as possible, because they are going to be just a completely different side without this guy at the end of every scoring opportunity, just managing to convert. I mean, one of the reasons we spoke about, like, for example, Inter in the Champions League, is that they didn't convert their many chances, against your Real Madrids, for example. Juventus need about 15 chances at goal before they convert just the one, and you look around and you think to yourself, this is the most clinical of all strikers, and it's worth allowing him almost to do whatever, but just stay, because what he can provide and how much further he can push the team onwards and potentially be in the top four is almost a move that I just wouldn't want to disturb right now. If they can just shore up defensively when they do and work better away from home, then this could be a team that really stuns us, because their football is modern. It is interesting. It is fantastic. There is great team harmony. And like you said, even just when you listen to him talking about the Italiano in his interviews, and he says, well, when he gets angry with me, I'm Dušan, but when he loves me, I'm Vlahovic, and it's just, you can see how happy everyone is, and except for the fans, obviously, with him. But there has been talk of Rocco Commisso, like, thinking of, like, should we just try to keep him? But I wonder how much money will come for him, because right now, if I'm Fiorentina, I'm really not willing to negotiate any of my terms. I mean, it's got to be really big bucks. And frankly speaking, if Lukaku went for 115, I'm not willing to sell Vlahovic for 70. I need something closer to that figure.
Yeah, I just don't think it's about money, this contract situation. He was offered 5 times what he's on. I don't think Vlahovic is holding out for more money. I think he's holding out because he knows that whether it's this summer or later, he wants to go to one of the clubs that can win the Champions League, I think. And fair enough, if that's his ambition, or at least be in the Champions League consistently. I do think, very possibly, week to week, it's looking to me more and more that I'm looking at and thinking of, have Juventus missed their opportunity if they wanted this guy? We've talked about the fact that Juventus was supposed to be one of the clubs that were very keen on him. I think the more I look at the way things are going, the more I think the only clubs who are going to be able to offer what he's worth are going to be your Man Cities, PSGs, your clubs who really have the really deep pockets. Because I think personally, even this summer with 1 year on his contract, someone's going to pay really big money for him. And I think they'll be probably not disappointed they did, even though it's 1 year left in his contract, because players this good don't come around all that often. So that's my take on that situation.
But his will makes a difference.
Yes, of course.
I think his will makes a difference, because Arsenal have come in, obviously, with a lot of money, and he doesn't seem to want to go there. So I wonder what will happen and if Manchester City will Manchester City should really make a move if they can in January. And whether or not, let's just say Fiorentina say we'd rather like give up on the money and keep you because you can get us into the top four. What will happen on his occasion, on his level? Will he say, no, I really want to go and you have to let me go? I wonder what his will is and where he wants to go, because I think that's going to make all the difference.
Yeah, and there's other things that like are interesting in this conversation. Like, look, he's just helped Serbia qualify for the World Cup. Will he prefer to stay at Fiorentina a bit longer just because he knows, look, I'm playing every week right now, I'm comfortable, I'm scoring goals, this looks best for me going into that? I don't know. We did get a question from Stampar on Twitter saying, what happens to Fiorentina when Vlahovic leaves? They do look better as a squad, but how do we evaluate them without a player like Dušan? My feeling on this, Mina, is from everything we've just said, that they're going to be clearly, without question, materially much poorer up front. They're going to lose all those goals. He scored almost 50% of their goals this season. But the question you can't really answer until you know how they reinvest that money. They might get some players in the transfer window, either when he leaves or afterwards, which can help them build something more long term.
I think that actually it's obviously they're going to lose something when any team is going to lose something when you lose a Vlahovic or obviously a player of that ilk. But it looks like they are going to get Ikone from Lille, who just delivered 2 beautiful assists midweek in the Champions League against Wolfsburg.
He's fantastic.
He's a former teammate of Mbappe. Yeah, what a player, right? Obviously he's, don't expect Vlahovic level. It's still like, he's not always there. But I do like that his footballing mind, and then his quick thinking. He executes things very quickly. He's a winger, plays on the wide. Also can play in central positions. It's up to that. But that's somebody that is coming in. He's been compared to a lot of people from Yuri Djokaev to Frank Ribery. Take it with a pinch of salt, obviously. But he is somebody who trains really well and is willing to learn. And I love that about players. But I do believe that this is a team that actually scouts pretty well. So I feel safe that they will keep finding great talent. They just need to get there before Borussia Dortmund. Making it as if I was them, I would have tried to get Karim Adeyemi and maybe position themselves in a way of, the way Dortmund are, and try to get themselves these great talents and offer them the space, because it's upsetting when I see someone like Salzburg's Adeyemi going to possibly Borussia Dortmund, whereas I feel like he could benefit a lot from moving to for example, Fiorentina and being their striker instead of Vlahovic, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think maybe Vincenzo Italiano, you want him to become that coach who convinces players. I like this guy. And in fact, everything Vlahovic says publicly about how much he likes working with Italiano could help them in the long run. Because, if it makes other young players go, oh, look what he did. It's a good thing going forward.